Did you know that in some states, you can legally run a red light on your motorcycle? This video will show you the exact legal conditions, the safe step-by-step behavior when a sensor fails, and which states include statutes that work in your favor. It's not about breaking the law. It's a little-known sensor loophole that cops hate because it challenges the usual traffic stop narrative. But here's the catch. Doing this wrong can mean a steep fine and points on your license. That's why we'll stick to the safe, legal route authorities don't want you to know about. So if you've ever been stuck at a light that won't change no matter where you position your bike, you're about to see why that happens and how the law actually gives you a way out. 1. The red light trap. You've probably experienced it yourself, sitting at an intersection while the signal never seems to turn. The reason isn't bad luck. Most traffic lights rely on electromagnetic induction loops buried in the pavement, designed to sense large vehicles with plenty of metal mass. These loops are tuned for cars and trucks, and because motorcycles have less ferrous metal and a smaller footprint, the system often struggles to detect them. It doesn't matter if you're riding a sport bike or a heavy cruiser, the sensor may still fail to register your presence. Across the country, many signals don't reliably recognize motorcycles. In fact, some states explicitly acknowledge this detection problem in their traffic codes. Riders in Illinois, Missouri, and Minnesota can point to statutory language that recognizes how these sensors fail to trigger for bikes. The good news is that positioning can make a difference. If you look closely, you'll notice rectangular saw-cut lines in the pavement marking the edges of the induction loop. Placing your wheels directly along these perimeter cuts helps maximize the disturbance of the magnetic field, improving your chances of being detected. It's a small adjustment, but one that can save you from being stuck across multiple light cycles. But what if the light still doesn't change? In states that recognize sensor failures, riders typically follow 3 steps. First, wait a reasonable period, often defined in practice as about 1 to 2 minutes or 2 full cycles. Second, check carefully that the intersection is clear of all oncoming or cross traffic. Third, proceed slowly and cautiously, treating the red light as though the signal itself is malfunctioning. Even then, understand this. Statutory protection doesn't guarantee you won't be stopped. Officers may still write a citation if they believe your action was unsafe. And while red lights pose one kind of challenge, another legal minefield appears when we look at what's on your head, or not, every time you ride. 2. Helmet law exemptions. Some states carve out very specific conditions where riders are legally allowed to go without a helmet, and these exemptions look quite different depending on where you live. Florida, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are 3 clear examples, each with their own statutory language and requirements. In Florida, the exemption applies to riders over 21, but only if they carry at least $10,000 in medical insurance coverage. The law is written to give older, insured riders more choice while still keeping financial responsibility in place. Michigan sets the bar higher. Riders must be over 21, have completed a state-approved safety course, and carry additional insurance coverage that exceeds the usual minimums. This shows how the state ties exemption to both rider education and financial readiness. Pennsylvania focuses on experience paired with age. Their exemption is available only to riders over 21 who also have at least 2 years of riding experience. That requirement assumes time in the saddle leads to stronger judgment and safer decision-making before giving riders the option to go helmet-free. Where things often trip riders up isn't the rules themselves, but the paperwork. To qualify, you generally need to carry physical proof of the specific medical coverage your state requires, meaning an insurance card or PIP documentation that clearly spells out the right coverage amount. Officers may not accept a digital file during a stop, and if you can't immediately produce proper proof, you risk being cited. On top of that, your motorcycle endorsement must be visible on your license. Both proof of insurance and endorsement are non-negotiable. It's important to remember that even if you meet every exemption detail, an officer might still stop you if they believe your choice compromises safety. The burden falls on you to follow the statute's exact wording, carry the paperwork, and double-check the language of your state's code before assuming you're exempt. And while these exemptions focus on what goes on your head, another set of laws looks at what goes in your ears. 3. The earbud enforcement gap. Have you ever slipped in an earbud for navigation or music and thought, am I actually breaking the law? Riders often assume helmet speakers are always legal and earbuds are never allowed. But the reality is more complicated. The real issue isn't the device itself. It's whether both ears are blocked at the same time. Take California as a clear example. Vehicle Code Section 27400 makes it illegal to operate a motorcycle with plugs or headsets covering both ears. The same law explicitly permits one ear to remain open for communication or navigation, striking a balance between convenience and the need to hear sirens, horns, and other traffic around you. Many other states follow a similar framework, focusing on your ability to hear external sounds rather than banning specific products. That principle explains why enforcement tends to look at whether both ears are obstructed. During a stop, officers may check if you can hear them call out, or they may simply watch how you respond to a passing siren. If your setup isolates you completely, you increase the risk of getting ticketed, even if the device itself isn't mentioned in the statute. Practical alternatives exist that balance safety and function. Single earbud systems are generally legal since one ear remains unobstructed. Open-ear helmet speakers that don't seal the canal typically comply with the law, allowing you to keep situational awareness. Bone conduction devices usually fall into a more permissive gray area because they transmit sound without blocking the ear, but legality can still depend on local rules. The safest move is to confirm specific requirements in the state where you ride. The takeaway is simple. Avoid riding with both ears blocked. Keep at least one ear open, and you'll reduce your chances of a stop turning into a citation. And while audio devices raise these subtle legal questions, some of the most expensive violations come from a far simpler issue, something as small as the light over your license plate. 4. License plate lighting loopholes. What if a $5 light bulb could cost you hundreds in fines and potentially get your bike impounded? Most riders focus on whether their license plate is visible, but completely overlook the specific legal requirements for how it must be illuminated. Many aftermarket LED lights that riders install actually violate state codes regarding color temperature and illumination patterns, creating an easy target for traffic stops. Texas law requires a white light that illuminates the entire plate surface from a specific distance and angle, not just making it vaguely visible. 28 states specify exact illumination requirements, including minimum visibility distances that typically range from 50 to 100 feet. Colored LED bulbs often fail compliance tests even when they appear white to the naked eye, as they may emit light outside the legally required color spectrum. Some jurisdictions also require the plate light to illuminate whenever the vehicle is running, not just when the headlights are activated. The most common mistake isn't the bulb color, it's the mounting position. Your plate must be illuminated by a dedicated white light source mounted above or to the side of the plate, not by reflected light from other sources like brake lights or turn signals. Many riders assume their integrated tail lights provide sufficient illumination, but most states require a separate, dedicated light source specifically for the license plate. The light must directly illuminate the plate without casting shadows or creating glare that would make the characters difficult to read. Officers frequently check plate illumination during nighttime stops or in low-light conditions, using this as an opportunity to inspect other equipment violations. Proper compliance involves not just the right bulb, but correct positioning that meets your state's specific angular and distance requirements. Some states even specify the exact number of bulbs required and their wattage limitations. Beyond lighting equipment, officers closely watch how you position yourself on the bike. 5. Riding position regulations. Have you ever shifted your legs on a long ride to stretch, only to wonder if that move could technically get you a ticket? Many riders assume they can sit however they like on their own bike, but several states have laws that say otherwise. California's Vehicle Code Section 27800, for example, requires riders to sit astride the seat, facing forward with one leg on each side. The intent is simple. Ensure you're stable and in full control of your motorcycle. Other states follow the same principle, and while the wording varies, the purpose stays the same. Laws exist to keep riders in a position that maximizes safe handling. Resting your feet on highway bars or passenger pegs can be seen as a violation because it changes the required astride position and may reduce your ability to react quickly. Enforcement here can be subjective. Officers are given leeway to decide if your posture compromises control. That means the same action might be overlooked by one officer and written up by another. Here's a practical rule of thumb. If the bike is moving, sit astride the seat, facing forward, with both legs on either side. Brief adjustments, like shifting to relieve pressure or stretching for comfort, are usually tolerated as long as you maintain full control and return promptly to the standard riding position. Riders have been cited for obviously improper stances, especially when they clearly reduce stability. The closer you stay to the statute's requirement, the less room there is for an officer to interpret your position as unsafe. If you need to adjust on a long ride, do it briefly and then return to proper posture. That approach balances comfort with the core legal intent, keeping you in control at all times. But comfort isn't the only surprise that laws regulate. Inviting someone else onto your bike adds another layer of equipment rules that most riders overlook. 6. Passenger equipment requirements. Carrying a passenger on your motorcycle isn't just about having an extra helmet. It's about whether your bike itself is legally equipped for two-up riding. Many states require dedicated passenger seats and foot pegs to make sure the motorcycle can safely handle the added weight. Without these factory-style features, carrying a passenger could lead to a citation, no matter how safely you ride. The law focuses on permanent installation, not temporary fixes. A pillion pad strapped on top of a solo seat or a set of removable pegs usually won't meet the requirement. Officers often look for permanent mounting points, manufacturer-designed passenger seating, and securely affixed foot supports. If it appears improvised, loose, or easily removable, it risks being deemed non-compliant. This is why jurisdictions with strict standards emphasize factory-installed equipment. It ensures stability and reduces the chance of equipment failure under load. Aftermarket solutions are a frequent gray area. Even when a seat looks padded and secure, if it lacks proper mounting hardware or certification, it could be considered illegal. The law is less concerned with comfort and more focused on structural integrity. Some states also require the passenger seat to be distinct from the rider's area, wide enough to accommodate another person, and positioned to keep both riders stable. The underlying purpose is safety. Improper setups can compromise braking, balance, and maneuvering, creating risks for both the rider and passenger. A practical rule for riders: before offering someone a lift, check for permanent mounting points, a securely attached passenger seat, and dedicated foot pegs that match the original factory style. If your setup doesn't meet that standard, don't assume it will pass inspection. Officers can and do issue citations when equipment falls short, regardless of helmets or protective clothing. And this points to a larger theme. Motorcycle laws hinge on specific technical requirements, enforced differently depending on the state and even the officer. So how do you take all of this and actually stay clear of tickets? The takeaway is simple. Keep a short rider checklist. First, always carry physical proof of your insurance and your endorsement if you rely on any exemptions. Second, know your state's exact red light and sensor failure rules and practice the safe procedure before relying on it in traffic. Third, confirm your equipment, plate light, passenger hardware, and helmet requirements before heading out on a ride. Drop a comment with the quirks in your state or a story of when a cop pulled you over, and subscribe if you want more insider legal tips for riders. Remember, laws differ everywhere, and even when the statute is on your side, an officer can still write the ticket. So documentation and caution are your best defense. Know the code, use it safely, and make it harder for cops to write a cheap ticket.